All right, hey, Brett here with GetLocalLeads.ai. In this video, we're going to be talking about what are the best GEO practices for your local service content marketing strategy. So if you're with a local service business, how do we use these new GEO strategies to bring in more revenue, more booked calls? So the data is coming out with a number of businesses, and it's been trickling out, but it is suggesting that when an AI gives you a referral, it is up to 32 times more likely to convert into a sale than traditional SEO traffic. That is a shocking number. I didn't say 32%. I said 32 times, 3,200% more likely to convert into a sale. Now, as we get into the content, let's just have a quick refresh. What is GEO? It stands for Generative Engine Optimization, kind of like SEO, but SEO is for search engines. Now, these AI tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, they don't just depend on SEO strategies. They have an additional layer of filters. Of course, they do. They have an additional layer of filters that they're going to go through to decide who to recommend. And so GEO is going to help you get recommended and bring in leads and revenue for your local service business when you get recommended by these AI tools. All right, so let's hop into best practice number one. And this is make sure you have an answer first structure on your blog posts. And blog posts are still going to be very, very important in this new age of GEO and AI recommendations. Right now, there's some evidence coming out that's saying up to 40% of the citations and the recommendations that AI are giving people are going to come and be pulled from your blog articles. So we cannot overlook this. This is still going to be a very powerful strategy. It's one of the things we specialize in over at GetLocalLeads.ai. Now, answer first structure. What does that mean? It means that you've got to front load the answer right there at the top of the article. The AI does not want to have to expend all of its computational resources. It doesn't want to have to expend tons of compute to go dig around in your articles and find the answer. You got to be super clear, answer right at the top. That is going to increase the likelihood and the chance that it's going to take your content and feature it in the AI results. All right, best practice number two, markup schema. Now, there's a bunch of debate going on online. Does an AI need markup schema in order to read your content and to reference it? Or does it not? That's the big debate. And I think the debate's totally off base. It doesn't make any sense. Does it or does it not? It appears that AI can just read text. So does it need it? It doesn't seem like that. Now, does markup schema make it more likely that you're going to be cited and given leads from the AI? Well, of course, it makes it more likely because it's good practice. Now, so you want to make sure you have that. And what's the reason it makes it more likely? Right now, all of the AI companies have one major problem, and that is compute. They don't have enough processing power to do everything, even just to train their own new models. So that means they're going to have a limited amount of processing power to fulfill your users' search queries, your users' questions. Okay, so it's not just going to go, these AI tools are not just going to go and read every single word on every single page. They need red flags, they need triggers to cue them in and say, this is where you want to prioritize search. And we know for a fact that AIs do this. You have to specifically instruct AIs that you're working with to read a whole file, or they'll just parse through and look for certain terms and keywords. And that is what the markup schema does. The markup schema says, oh, your user had a question? Well, this is our FAQ section. And that's the red flag. The markup schema is the red flag that tells the AI, go skim this real quick, because that's probably where the answer is going to be. That's why those FAQs are so important. So markup schema makes it more likely that you're going to be referred and cited by these AI tools. All right, best practice number three, make sure you're continuing to do good topic clusters and internal links. Now, these AI tools are looking at things maybe a little bit different than Google's algorithm. An algorithm doesn't really think about stuff. It's just a math problem, essentially. Now, when you have these AI tools, they are building a profile of your business. And what they're looking for is they're fanning out. When a user says, hey, what's the best roofer in Orlando? it's going to fan out and it's going to search for a whole bunch of different terms to build a complete kind of profile. Well, when they get into your website, they're building a profile of your website and all of the things you talk about. So you want to make sure that in your topic cluster, you have completely answered all of the possible questions. So make sure you're having a topic cluster. Make sure your internal links are linking within that topic cluster. So for example, if you're a plumber and you offer, 2-inch pipe replacement or pipe repair, you want to make sure you're answering all the possible questions about 2-inch pipe replacement and repair and installation within a group of blogs that are all internally linked. And that's going to help the AI say, oh, these people are absolutely experts on this in Orlando. So make sure you're using topic clusters. Let's move on to best practice number 4. And that is depth and good EEAT signals. And essentially what EEAT is, if you really sum it up, is make the best content. Make the best possible content that answers the question. And what these AIs are going to be looking for is how do you determine a scammer from a not a scammer? How do you determine a real business from a fake business? What these tools are looking for, and this starts with SEO and it's going to get way more intense with GEO. They're looking to see reality indicators. How do they ground you in reality? Well, certifications. You've got to mention them in your content. You've got to mention them on your website. Dates, times, reviews, anything that makes your business more real is what is going to make the difference for these AI tools. And I'll also say this. So you want to have depth of content. You want to have real material. You cannot just have someone going into your content and say, that's making your content and say, write me a blog about 2-inch pipe repair. And then it just spits out a blog. That is not going to be good enough anymore. You actually have to have real opinions, real expertise, and it can't just be generic. Okay. So you want to make sure you have that. But then the next thing that you also need to do within this depth and EEAT signals is you want to make sure you're speaking with authority. You can't have maybes and possiblies and you might want to no. Do this right now or else this is what's going to happen. Your whole backyard's going to explode because 2-inch pipes are dangerous, whatever it is. So you want to make sure you're speaking with authority. You've got depth. You're going after those EEAT signals and you're grounding everything in reality. You're proving to the AI, we're the best at this. Pick us. All right, let's move on to best practice number 5. And that is you have to now have cross-channel consistency on all of your messaging. And this is one I want to narrow into a little bit because I think this is going to be a lot more important than people anticipate. So as I've already said, these AI tools are building a profile. They don't just look at one page and rank it. They're looking at your whole website, your whole topic cluster, all of your services and how those services relate to the blogs. And then they're going over to your social media and your YouTube channel. And they're saying, does the YouTube channel and the recent social media posts, do all of those match with what the blog says and what their service page says? And if it finds inconsistency, it's going to say, these guys don't know what they're talking about. Let's go look at someone else. And this is going to be a problem, I think, for a lot of local service businesses because how does this work for you? You have a marketing agency, and that marketing agency has a social media guy over there, and they have a blogger over here writing blogs in some other country. And then they've got your web designer here, and they're different people. And oftentimes, those people don't have a good knowledge of the industry. Now, that is becoming easier with AI, but still, you can have a different sort of philosophy of how you do this. You can have a different approach to plumbing based on your 20 years of experience than some other guy down the road. And if that isn't consistent because you've got these 3 different people in their own silos doing different things, you're not going to be recommended as much. And so one of the things you're going to want to look for as you're looking for a GEO agency or even just internally is you're going to want to have a centralized database of how you approach certain things, how you solve certain problems, and your team or the agency is going to pull from that centralized knowledge base to make sure that every piece of content that's created is accurate with your brand and your philosophy and your way of doing things. Best practice number 6 is go hyper local. Everything about these AI tools is about to be super custom. Just like 2 days ago, ChatGPT released another update with bigger memory, and it now remembers all the conversations you've ever had with it and more about you. And it's saving information about their users. It's going to be their best friend. It's their coach. It's their life coach. It's their advisor. It's their advice giver in their pocket all the time, and it knows everything about them. So no longer is it going to be best roofer near me, best lawyer near me. It's not going to be that anymore. These AI tools, like I've already said, are going to fan out. They do this. We already know they do this. They search 20 times, 50 times. If you do a deep search, 400, 500 different searches to make sure that whatever they recommend is super targeted. And that means, for example, the user loves dogs. Oh, that local service business has a dog in their logo. And also they have great reviews. And also they're not just in Orlando, they're in Kissimmee. They're in this one specific town. And so we want to make sure we're giving the AI as much information as we can, and we're training these AI that we have what the user wants. And that means hyper local in terms of your locations. So if you serve a major metropolitan area, you want to make sure you have content, sales pages, service pages that say you serve that area, but you also want to have the sub-location. So for example, instead of just saying, well, we serve the Orlando area, you want to make sure you have Kissimmee, you have Maitland, you have all of the other sub areas that you serve in there, and then you have topic clusters for those areas. Now, that sounds like a lot of work, but if you're working with an agency that specializes in creating this GEO content, they should be able to do it at scale. They should be able to provide this to you so that you can scale out your reach to these AIs. Okay, best practice number 7, and this is the technical eligibility, okay? And so firstly, a lot of these AI tools are using Google. They're using Bing, okay? And there is bias, there is preference between these tools. So for example, if you have a Microsoft-backed AI, it's probably going to use Bing because Bing is used by Microsoft. If you have a Google-backed AI like Gemini, guess what it's going to be pulling sources from? Probably Google. If Google has a $60 million annual contract with Reddit, guess where it's going to be pulling a whole bunch of its citations? Reddit. So you want to make sure that you have appearance on these search engines because the AIs are using the search engines to get real-time info. So you want to have good SEO practice to underlie your GEO. And so this means good sitemaps, crawlable, indexable pages. You want to make sure you don't have no index on pages you want to show up on. You want to have helpful media. You want to have images. You want to have videos embedded in that content. The more types of content or the more ways that you format that content, the more valuable it is to users. So you want to make sure you're having good SEO hygiene. You want to make sure you have the good technical SEO built into the page as well, including your markup schema. And that is going to increase the likelihood that you show up. Lastly, best practice number 8, and this is just always the case, and this is more of a marketing perspective. Make sure all of your content, GEO, SEO, ABC, whatever it is, it needs to have a good CTA, call to action. You need to make sure that no matter what you're doing on any platform, have a call to action that says, call right now. Is this an emergency? Here's the phone number. Call us today. Book a call. Because you want to make sure that no matter where a user ends up or an AI ends up, they know what to do next. If the AI isn't figuring out what to do next, you're not getting leads. You're not increasing your revenue. And in the spirit of a good call to action, if you want a great, reliable place to get GEO content and you'd like $1,000 of that content absolutely free, and you can actually order it yourself, go on over to getlocalleads.ai and click the button that says get my $1,000 in free content. And we'll look forward to seeing you over there. See you in the next video.